Nintendo has made a ton of games, and not all of them can be good. So today, we're gonna look at the worst games from Nintendo's most popular franchises, starting out with Pokémon. Detective Pikachu is a very strange idea for a Pokémon series. The movie made sense, even though there are some scenes that give me night terrors to this day. And as much as the game isn't good, the original Detective Pikachu made sense to a point. But then in 2023, we got Detective Pikachu Returns.
Returns? I love when a game comes with instructions.
Pokémon has a history of making a wide variety of spin-offs, whether they're puzzle games, fighting games, or even racing games. They're known for taking their iconic creatures and putting them wherever they fit. So when I heard that Pokémon was coming out with a mystery game series, I was ecstatic.
Let's solve the mystery on who stole my will to live. I knew it!
A good mystery game is hard to make. That's why series like Ace Attorney is so highly regarded. And both Detective Pikachu games are so simple, it's like Pokemon did not even try. But specifically, Detective Pikachu Returns is the worst of the two. You take on the role of Tim, the son of Detective Pikachu's former partner Harry, who went missing one day and they're trying to figure out why. And that premise is fine. But the majority of the game takes place in Rhyme City, where you're helping people solve mysteries. And this is some of the most boring and bland content I have ever played through in a video game. Out of all of the great Pokemon spin-offs they could have made, like Mystery Dungeon, Pokemon Ranger, or Pokemon Conquest, for some reason someone thought the best use of resources would be to make a new Detective Pikachu, and I will never understand that. I would have rather had a new Pokemon typing adventure. Mystery games are supposed to invoke a feeling that makes you want to solve the puzzles that you're given. And that was not the case at all. Most Pokemon spin-offs have some reason to replay the game, whether it's taking it on as a new character, or even trying to beat a high score that can keep you coming back time and time again. But Detective Pikachu Returns only has one way to solve any of the puzzles in the game, so there is no reason to turn this game on after you beat it. And when you pair that with a terrible and bland story, some of the worst voice acting I have ever heard, and a group of characters that look really weird, then you have the perfect recipe for a game that is just bad. Detective Pikachu Returns is the perfect game to give someone if it's their first mystery game, also if it's their first time being able to read, write, or think for themselves. And the only Pokemon game that comes relatively close to how bad this is Pokemon Dash, but at least that was replayable to some capacity.
Detective Pikachu Returns is a very bad game, but at least it didn't give me chest pains when I played it.
Mario is the undisputed king of platformers, but there was one game that was so bad that they tried to keep it in Japan for years. And that was Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. The Lost Levels is about as fun as stubbing your toe, because it was designed to cause you physical pain. In Japan, this was originally Super Mario Bros. 2, but they quickly realized that this wouldn't fly in a Western audience. The entire premise of the Lost Levels assumes that you are already the best Mario player in the world. So while the original Super Mario Bros. On the NES starts out pretty easy and gets slightly difficult towards the end, the Lost Levels starts out extremely hard and somehow only gets harder as you play. A lot of early platformers are difficult, but this is a whole nother beast, where there were decisions made just to make you upset. There are a ton of times where you'll be playing the game and there will be a trap that there is no possible way you could have seen coming in any capacity. And for an older game, that was fairly standard practice, but this takes it to an entirely new level. There are poison mushrooms that will do damage to you like an enemy would. There are sections in the game where you have to have pixel perfect jumps in order to make it through. They put hidden blocks in the worst areas because why not? And at some points in the game, there is just wind that will blow you the other direction. I think the Lost Levels as a challenge game is actually pretty good, but it's also the only Mario game that they tried to suppress after it released.
Nintendo, can we have Mario Bros. 2 now? Yeah, I guess so. This is just not the same thing. Yes, it is! Take it!
I am someone who likes a challenge, and it doesn't matter if it's the original version or the version from Super Mario Bros. All-Stars, this is a painfully difficult game. And the only reason I would ever recommend playing it is for the bragging rights to say that you beat it. Mario Kart is always somewhere towards the top of Nintendo's best-selling games on any of their consoles. So naturally, when Nintendo was on their push to make a bunch of mobile games, I had extremely high expectations for Mario Kart Tour. And then it released, and it was fine. Tour is not inherently a bad game, it's just a mobile game, and compared to any of the other Mario Karts, it's just not as good. The problems this game has only really show up if you want to play it a lot. Mainly the over-reliance on microtransactions that have plagued pretty much every game Nintendo has ever put on a mobile phone.
Except for Mario Run. But that's still not great.
The problems this game has only come from the fact that they have put microtransactions in every facet of the game. There are a ton of unique characters that are only available in Mario Kart Tour, but you have to unlock them or pay for them. And honestly, I would be fine with that if they were cosmetic only changes, but that's not the case. Every track has a tiered system of preferred racers, karts, and gliders. There are racers that will give you more points on certain tracks, encouraging you to spend money to get a higher score if you don't have that character. And yes, you can play this game and never spend a dime, which is good. There's no system in place that prevents you from playing the game if you don't spend money. And compared to a lot of other mobile games, this is a far more digestible system, but when you're competing against all of the other Mario Kart games that exist, this is so much worse. At least Mario Kart Live Home Circuit came with a car you can drive around your house. With a few simple changes, I feel like they could have made Mario Kart Tour incredible. If there was a one-time only transaction where you could buy your way out of microtransactions, I think it would be great. They did it with Super Mario Run, they could easily do that here. And to double dip on that point, I think they should have made this available for Switch as well. Games like Pokémon Unite and Pokémon Quest are available on both mobile and on the Switch. And upping the install base for any game just makes sense. And if this was available on Switch, I feel like it would have gotten a lot more flack for having all of the microtransactions that it does.
Why is there a monthly subscription for Mario Kart Tour? But more importantly, why have I been paying for it for 8 months?
Mario Kart Tour is the definition of squandered potential. And it's a shame because the game itself isn't bad, it's just managed terribly. A lot of Nintendo's most popular franchises involve Mario. He is the king of the party, even the bad ones. Mario Party Top 100 is just bad. It took the Mario Party name and got rid of pretty much everything that people liked about Mario Party. At this point, the entire series was going through an identity crisis, so they thought an easy way to make a good amount of money would be to release 100 of the best Mario Party minigames in one package.
The problem is, it stinks.
What makes Mario Party special is how the package comes together. The board game section and the minigame section blend together perfectly. And if you have too much of either of those, it throws the entire game out of whack. So to release a Mario Party game that was just the minigames is like eating a bowl of Lucky Charms that is just the marshmallows. For the first bite, it's fine, but then for the rest of the bowl, it just sucks. Mario Party minigames have always been some of the most fun you can have with your friends. But when you're just playing the minigames, you lose out on the rest of the stakes the game has to offer. Battling for coins and for stars is what makes the game fun, and not having any of that makes the entire experience pointless. The Top 100 is full of some of the best minigames from the entirety of the Mario Party franchise, but not having the rest of the package makes the entire game feel pointless. And to make things worse, they released this on the 3DS. Mario Party is known for being a great couch co-op game, and to put a game like this on the 3DS only further limited how far the game could go. If they released this on the eShop for the Switch or even the Wii U, I feel like it would have done a lot better. And it was just a tone-deaf move to release a game that was just the Mario Party minigames when all we had wanted was a true, authentic Mario Party for the first time since Mario Party DS. Luckily, Mario Party has found its way since, and this game isn't necessarily bad, it's just the worst Mario Party that we've gotten. This is the last Mario game, I swear. It would be in bad taste to talk about bad Nintendo games and not bring up the worst Mario sports game ever made. And Ultra Smash is that game. This game was $60 for the amount of content that you would get in a demo. The best part about this game is absolutely the visuals. It looks really good. But when you get past the surface, there is nothing to it. Mario sports games have a complicated history. During the GameCube era, they were releasing game after game, each being better than the last. Whether it was tennis, baseball, or soccer, Mario was able to do it all. But then they just completely lost their way, and Ultra Smash was the worst contender. One of the most popular parts of any of the Mario sports games are the minigames, and there was a grand total of 1 minigame in this game. And it was fine, but where was all of the content? Ultra Smash was the first new Mario Tennis game we had gotten since Mario Power Tennis on the GameCube, if you don't count the new Play Control version as being something different. And there were a ton of ways they could have spiced this game up a little bit, like including motion controls like they did with Mario Super Sluggers, to make the game feel like a good hybrid between a normal sports simulator and a Mario game. But for some reason they didn't do that, and the game only works off of button control, which I could forgive if there was more to do, but there are 2 kinds of tennis in this game. A regular tennis mode and a tennis mode where you get mushrooms. And both of them are practically the same thing, and neither of them are fun. The biggest problem is that Ultra Smash could have been the game to really help Nintendo dig themselves out of the Wii U's hole. If they had a great Mario Tennis game on the console, it would have helped at least a little bit. But releasing this with the amount of content it had for a full $60 just reinforced everyone's opinion on the Wii U, and it ended up just causing even more damage.
But at least you can play as a giant Donkey Kong. There's no way if Donkey Kong is in a game, it can be bad, right?
We wouldn't have Mario without Donkey Kong, so I thank him for that, but I will never forgive him for Barrel Blast.
Now, I was told that this would be a blast, and I was lied to.
This game originally was meant to be a GameCube game that utilized the infamous Donkey Kong bongos. And though I don't think it would be that much better if it released on the GameCube, it's still not good on the Wii. You can't use the bongos in this game for some reason, even though it seems like it would work no issue. You have to use this with the Wiimote and Nunchuck, and that does not work very well. You have to shake the Wiimote and Nunchuck to get going, and then every time you crash, you have to keep doing that over and over again. And the gameplay loop is exhausting and not fun. Every time you crash or are hit with an item, you have to shake the Wiimote like it's a baby that owes you money. And I can't think of a single reason that could not have been dedicated to a button. There were already 2 separate series that had Donkey Kong characters in a racing game. Both Diddy Kong Racing and Mario Kart exist and show that this can work, but the game itself has to be good. And I could get past the gameplay issues if the rest of the game was fun, but it is not. The tracks that are available in this game are some of the most boring that I have seen in a racing game. And the premise is cool. All of these Donkey Kong characters are strapped with barrels that allow them to fly from point A to point B. And there are so many ways they could have made this a great racing game, but they were so hard stuck on the gimmicks they were trying to force into the game that they ended up ruining the game itself. And outside of the basic racing, there is nothing to it. There is no battle mode or mission mode that would at least make this game somewhat playable. It is just doing the same races over and over again.
Maybe some other Mario characters have better games. No, I guess not.
Yoshi is one of the most beloved Mario characters of all time. And with Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island, we got an incredible Yoshi game, opening the door for so many more down the line. And that led to them getting a little bit carried away of what they could use Yoshi for.
Yoshi Touch and Go just sounds like a crime.
Yoshi Touch and Go was an early DS game, which meant that it had to use the touchscreen as much as humanly possible. And as much as I get that they were trying to make the most of their new technology by showcasing it with fun games, they forgot to make this game fun. This is a slow and boring Yoshi game that is broken up into 2 main parts. The first being Baby Mario falling from the sky, where you guide him down by drawing clouds in his path. You use the clouds to make him avoid the spikes that he would run into, and this part is fine. It's really slow, so it's not very difficult at all. And the second half of the game takes place when Yoshi catches Baby Mario, and you do the exact same thing for Yoshi, drawing him paths with clouds so he can get as far as possible with the child. And that is all that there is to this game.
Oh, so it was a crime.
I get where Nintendo was coming from because there was zero precedent about how to make a 2-screen game at this point. So they wanted to make something simple and accessible as possible. So when people hopped into the world of 2-screen two-screen gaming, they weren't entirely thrown off. But they really took the term simple and ran as far as they possibly could with it. I think this would have been the perfect pack-in game for the DS to show off how a two-screen game could work, because on its own, I can see no reason for anyone to go out and buy this ever.
Yoshi deserved better than this, and I will fight anyone on that.
Smash is a fan favorite Nintendo series, and no matter what game you say is the worst, you're gonna be wrong to someone. But I think that the worst Smash game is Smash Bros. For the Wii U.
Wrong! Well, what do you think is the worst? You're wrong! You're wrong!
I don't think Smash Bros. For Wii U is a bad game, I just think it is the overall worst Smash game that they have made. The first two Smash games are some of the best platform fighters of all time, perfectly balancing the simplicity of what Smash Bros. Can be with having such a high skill ceiling that they are still played competitively to this day. And Super Smash Bros. Brawl is on the complete other side of the spectrum, being the best single-player Smash Bros. Game we probably will ever get. But then when Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS came out, we got a weird mixed bag. And where Smash Bros. On the 3DS had a bunch of great single-player content, Smash for Wii U was both not as competitive as 64 and Melee, and its single-player content was laughable when compared to Brawl, and it was full of weird design choices. The big selling point about Smash Bros. For the Wii U was the jump to HD, which looks great, and the inclusion of 8-player Smash.
This was about as fun as being in a 8-car pileup.
8-player Smash as an idea is fine, but in practice, it is just way too chaotic. The single-player content compared to what we had in other Smash games was just not as good, with Classic Mode being the worst that it has ever been, and the new Smash Tour being an objectively bad game mode. Smash Tour was the exclusive mode that was available for Smash Bros. On the Wii U, which essentially functioned as a board game for Smash Bros., where you roll a number and then move around the board in order to collect power-ups which help you down the line. But it's just not very good, especially when you compare it to Smash Run on the 3DS version, which was the Smash Bros. Equivalent of City Trial from Kirby Air Ride. I don't think Smash Bros. For Wii U is a bad game, it's just unfortunately the worst Smash game that we've gotten. Just like for Mario, I feel like it would be in bad taste to include any of the CDI games for Zelda. So for the worst Zelda game, I went for The Adventure of Link. The only game I can really compare this to is Mario The Lost Levels, because it is a strange game that doesn't feel like any of the other games in its franchise. And just like The Lost Levels, it is stupidly difficult. This is a non-linear Zelda game that takes you on a weird adventure, but the majority of the game takes place in a 2D environment, fighting anything in your path in order to get from point A to point B. The reason this is the worst Zelda game is because it doesn't feel like a Zelda game. There are other games in the Zelda franchise that offer a 2D section, where there's platforming and fighting in 2D environments, but it's not the entirety of the game. Where in The Adventure of Link, that is all you get throughout the entire game. And the enemies in this game are punishingly difficult, and there is little to no context about what to do at any given time. You just have to go from town to town, talking to people and picking up hints along the way. In my first couple playthroughs, I missed some important conversations that would have made the game so much more accessible. And when you compare this to other games in the Zelda franchise like A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, and Breath of the Wild, then this is clearly the black sheep of the group. If you're a fan of challenge, this isn't as punishingly difficult as something like Mario The Lost Levels, and it is still a great time, but I would rather play any of the other Zelda games, and somehow that includes Triforce Heroes.
You take that back right now. It's okay. Triforce Heroes is a decent game.
I'm a big fan of Kirby, but there are some games that are just not that great. And the one that is the not that greatest is Kirby Squeak Squad. None of the Kirby games are known for having the best plot in the world, but I think this has the worst plot I've seen in a Nintendo game. Kirby is about to eat his piece of cake, and then someone comes and snatches it. And instead of thinking about it and figuring out who did it, he immediately goes to King Dedede's house and beats the crap out of him.
Kirby apparently having anger issues was not on my bucket list, but I'm glad it exists.
You find out that King Dedede didn't do it, you assaulted an innocent man, and that you were actually robbed by the Squeak Squad. And then the rest of the game unfolds where you hunt down the Squeak Squad to make everything right. There are other Kirby games that could be considered worse because they're not really a Kirby experience, with games like Super Kirby Clash and Kirby and the Rainbow Curse coming to mind, but those I can at least come back to and play and have a good time, where Squeak Squad is just fine. After I beat Squeak Squad, I have no reason to go back and play it ever again. It is the most bare bones, basic, and bland Kirby experience that I have ever played. The level structure is very simple, even for a Kirby game, which is not a very difficult series, with some levels being embarrassingly short. In every level, there's going to be a collection of chests just scattered everywhere, and your job throughout the game is to collect as many of these chests as you possibly can. On the bottom screen, Kirby has a stomach where he can store up to 5 different items, which as a concept is a cool idea, except you can store power-ups in this slot, which means that if you get hit and lose your power-up, you just have another one that you're ready to use at any given time, which makes an already easy game even easier. Luckily, the chests take up these slots, so if you want to get all the chests, you can't be hoarding power-ups, but it still makes any of these levels an absolute cakewalk.
Get it? Because they took his cake?
Kirby has a history of having some incredible level design, but these levels are short and bland. And I know this was made for the DS, so they were trying to make it a more mobile experience, shortening the levels so it was easier to pick up and play, but that shouldn't mean these levels should be completely void of content. All the new things about this game, whether it's the Squeak Squad themselves or the power-ups like Metal, which are terrible, all come together to make an extremely lackluster Kirby game, and I don't recommend this to anyone. Metroid is a great series full of incredible games, but there are 2 Metroid games that are universally looked at as some of the worst games in the franchise and that Nintendo has ever made. And they released back to back.
It was 6 years apart! That's technically still back to back.
The worst game though is absolutely Metroid Other M. The Metroid series has a very deep and intricate lore, with tons of details from the video games and the manga that make it a very cohesive story. But Other M decided to seemingly throw all of that out the window to make a game that is just not good. Historically, the Metroid games have never been very character focused outside of Samus, which helped to build the feeling of isolation these games provide so well. Though some of these characters did exist in the manga, we never really saw them in video games. And then Other M released and we had so many characters that I did not recognize at all. But I was open to that if the story was good. But it was not. The story has a hard time picking a plot and sticking with it, whether it's a murder mystery or straight up conspiracies. The plot never stays a consistent direction, and it ends up telling a story about Samus and all of these other characters that doesn't feel like a cohesive narrative. And this is partly due to the voice acting being really bad and the translation not being done well. Because the overall story itself was decent, it was just not executed to the best it could have been. But my least favorite part about Other M is how weird this game feels. While playing the game, you shift your control scheme way too much. To control Samus in a 3D environment, you hold the Wiimote like a gamepad. But when you have to hop into first person, you have to move the Wiimote and point it at the screen.
This is so bad, it has to be a mistake.
And when you put the whole thing together, the game itself is just bad. And the worst part is they abandoned Metroid for 6 years after this released. And for those years, we thought that Metroid was over and done with. And when it came out of hiatus, we got the game that is the second worst, Metroid Prime Federation Force, which is also bad, but at least playable.
This is probably the least intuitive Nintendo has ever made a game feel.
Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is everything I didn't want it to be. Because it is not only a bad game, it's also a disgrace to Animal Crossing. It is a very simple board game video game that takes place in the world of Animal Crossing. Each game takes place over the course of a month. Each turn is a day and each character moves once per day. Similar to a game like Mario Party, you roll a dice and move that many spaces, and the space you land on determines if you either gain or lose happy points. The problem with the game is more so in the controls than the game itself, because the controls are just so bad. In order to take your turn, you have to physically touch your amiibo to the gamepad. And when you're playing with friends, this takes an incredible amount of time. And all they had to do to fix it was make it so you could hit a button and roll the dice. The only thing people wanted was an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U. And when this released, everybody instantly understood what it meant when you had to be specific with a genie wish, because this was technically an Animal Crossing game on the Wii U.
It was just disgusting.
You know it's bad when I would rather play Garfield's Lasagna Party than this. They're both bad games, but at least I expected this one to be bad. Star Fox Zero is accurately titled for the amount of people who actually enjoy playing this. For a long time, whenever a new Star Fox game got announced, I got really excited. I figured there was a chance that we would get something good and they would use Star Fox in a way that made the series seem like an actual Nintendo IP they cared about. But every time they made a game, they just made it worse and worse, and then eventually we got Star Fox Zero. Similar to Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, this game looked really good, but it lacked any and all substance to make the game fun at all. The only part of the game that worked at all well was the on-rail shooter portion, and even then it was still bland. You know it's bad when Kid Icarus Uprising does a better job being an on-rail shooter than the series that Nintendo has had for years that is known for being an on-rail shooter. Star Fox Adventures and Star Fox Assault were both really good games, showing that the franchise had the ability to go in a bunch of different directions and still be good. But they kept reusing the same simple and bland content that would have been good on a console like the N64, but with all the time that had passed, the fans wanted something that felt like a true next-generation Star Fox experience. Aesthetically, the game looked great, but when you got past the surface, you quickly realized there was nothing good about it.
Midas, you're such a downer recently. Why don't you play some of Nintendo's best games? You know, I don't even think I have the strength anymore. Who is that?